Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. You're listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Today, our guest in this town, in this market, if you want to call someone a part of royalty, that's who I got on the other camera. He's been playing this music for years. So I'm going to say he's been playing it. I'm not even going to say how long, but a long time. He's well known in the town. He's played all over the country. And he's got a wealth of knowledge, and we're going to find out about it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you one Ernie Krivda. Ernie, how are you today?
I'm good, Mr. Scott. And hello, folks out there in podcast land.
Yes, thank you.
I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you, sir. For those people who don't know, yes, we do have some younger listeners, talk about your start in this business. And there's some milestones that you acquired along the way that I want to talk about. But first of all, how did you start?
I started because my father is a musician, saxophone player, and he did this, and that's what I grew up with. I grew up with him playing records for me from the early. I mean, I can recall at age 3 listening to Coleman Hawkins and Roy Ulrich play. Stuffy. So that's, like I've been listening to this stuff for a very, very long time. And I've always loved jazz, and I always wanted to be a jazz player. Now, my parents, my mother particularly, didn't want me to be a jazz player like Dad. She wanted me to be something, more serious. Something that she could be proud of. So like I started off on clarinet at age 6. So they wanted me to be like an orchestral clarinet player, which was just fine, but that's not what I wanted. But I went along with it, and I didn't start playing saxophone until I was 16.
Wow!
I got my Uncle Nick gave me his Busher alto. Now see, the thing is, from the moment I picked it up and played the first notes, you should have known right there,
right,
what was shaking,
mm-hmm.
because that was what I was meant to do, and everybody should have known it,
right?
But anyway, so that's early on, I was playing clarinet, and I was in junior. I was 12 years old. I was playing polka bands. Polish polka bands, because they required a facile clarinet player, which I actually was. And so I was playing in these polka bands. But what I would do is I would take the money that such as it was, made with the polka bands, and Dad would drive me to the jazz record store on Kinsman, where I would start buying my own collection. And I remember the first things I bought there. I bought Donald Byrd, Gigi Grice, Jazz Lab, and it was a record with an album of Buddy DeFranco, great clarinet player. And he had, Sonny Clark on piano, and it was a great record. So that was the beginning. But that was a ritual, take the bread from the polka gig and go buy jazz records.
Nice.
And so, I played alto saxophone. I was playing in different bands. One of them was I played alto in and Weasel Parker, great saxophone player from Cleveland. I played in his big band, and because he was a bassy guy, and I could play, and I knew how to play that style. I could play like Marshall Royal, and so I was playing there, and going around sitting in with various things. I was very fortunate. I was sitting in with Eddie Baccus, who had
Mm-hmm.
a great jazz organ player who had a regular gig at the Esquire bar, and musicians would go in there and play, and I played with him, and that led to eventually I played in his quartet. With Gary Jenkins, Abdul Majid on guitar, Eddie and myself, and I was playing tenor at this time. The reason I was playing tenor is because my buddy Chuck Finley, who I grew up with, great trumpet player, got a gig with the Jimmy Dorsey Orchestra,
Mm-hmm.
and voila, they needed a tenor player. So he says, "You get a tenor and come on this gig." So I went and we Academy of Music. We went and bought a tenor, and I was off, and I was playing with Jimmy Dorsey's band under the direction of Lee Castle, and it was a very valuable experience for me. Even though it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, I still learned a lot on that. It was a pro gig, and so, but I kept see my world was at that time was the 105th area. All right, the
Mm-hmm.
Esquire Bar, the Club 100, the myriad of jazz clubs up and down the street. I mean, a lot of people that weren't around then don't remember that time, which is now the Cleveland Clinic, because that's everything else is gone. But that was a golden era for jazz in Cleveland, and I was, going up and down the street, and eventually I was sitting in at the Esquire, and Joe Alexander was playing at the Club 100. I, I don't know if people remember Joe, great player. Later played with Woody Herman and Elvin Jones,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my early idols. And so he was playing the Club 100, but when I was underage but they played in the window. The band played in the windows.
Yes. Yeah.
We'd stand outside and we would check it out there, try to go in, but I kept getting kicked out because I couldn't buy
Right.
any
You were
drinks,
underage.
and who needed me, so, but that was the beginning, was the inspiration of the musicians that played there. And then I was so fortunate. There was another great tenor player named Dave O'Rourke, and he was part of the contingent of Joe Alexander, Weasel Parker, and Dave, and they were so influential. Now Dave lived in Garfield Heights.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I lived. So he's like around the corner. So I used to go, pester him, and I get lessons, and and I was the kid, and he was a really a model for just sensational. I can't even describe the level of virtuosity that Dave played with. Anyway, that was kind of my how I kind of got into this whole thing.
So this
And,
whole beginning stage was, you said you played tenor and you played alto saxophone, correct?
yes.
So is there a difference? I mean, I've heard about all the different types of one-man instrument, whether it's saxophone or whatever. Is there a difference in how you play one or the other?
They're different instruments. They have different characters. There's a different soul to the tenor and the alto. They each have their own character, like I could say it, and you have to make yourself one with that character, and so that's the difference, and you have to be able to deal with the difference.
Now, obviously, growing up, your reputation grows, grows to the point where you're going to move to New York. Were you ready for that? Were
Here,
you?
here's what happened. All right, during the '60s, were especially as the decade went on, it was not a good time for jazz. I was like, I was wondering. I was in a band in playing in Florida, and it was a show band. It was, good musicians in the band, but it was not a jazz band by any means. And so, but it was a gig, and I had done many gigs of this sort. Um, I've had, got to say, my experience was good. I was growing into things, but there was, it seemed at that particular time, '68, that there was, will I ever be able to play jazz?
Hmm.
Where would I play? And then we were playing in Florida, and it was a disastrous gig. Um, but it was close to Miami, and in Miami was Iris Sullivan. Iris Sullivan was one of the great musicians, and we went. I went to see him play. He played in a place called the Rancher. He had a regular gig at the Rancher, and that was like a spiritual awakening. He was playing real music for the crowd, and they were digging it.
Hmm.
And so, it's like, hey, this can happen. He's playing from his heart. He's playing what he believes in, and it's happening. And I believe that was a turning point. Went back, uh, played in. Uh, I was a ringer in the Kent State band, which was a great band. Bill Dobbins was the director. It was really a great band, and we used to have a regular Monday night gig at a place called Eddie's, and that was you know that was great players. Everybody was there wasn't any students in the band. It was like the only student was the fourth trumpet player, and Bill was he was faculty, but Bill was a marvelous musician, and so I did that, and then the Smiling Dog came about.
Smiling
Came
Dog
to be.
Saloon.
That was the difference. I was able to play in the house band for all the jazz acts that came through there. Now, every touring jazz act played the Smiling Dog Saloon at that particular time. We weren't making any money, but I didn't care because you couldn't pay for the education that I was getting. I was playing opposite uh, I played opposite Herbie Hancock. I played opposite Elvin Jones, Cannonball Adderley, McCoy Tyner, uh, uh, Les McCann, uh, Freddie Hubbard. Just it's easier to know the guys that I didn't play opposite the people I did. There were so many,
Hmm.
and so in that I got to sit in with a lot of these people. I said, and I became good friends with Cannonball Adderley. Uh, he liked me probably because he picked up on the fact that I was idolizing him and
Right.
his playing, which I always did. He was always one of my favorite. I couldn't believe that here I am playing with Cannonball Adderley on the stand, and so uh, eventually the club lasted from '70 to '75, and a call came from Quincy Jones. Cannonball had given Quincy my name. He's putting a band together, and he said, "Well, get this guy." So uh, went out to the West Coast, 1975, and toured with Quincy. He was touring the Body Heat album,
Hmm.
which was, that was a really groundbreaking album,
Yes, it
actually.
was.
And uh, your radio guy, you would know that. That was a great album. So we were touring on that, and then so we did it. We went to Japan, all over the USA, and then we came back to LA and we recorded Mellow Madness,
Hmm.
which was subsequent album. And so I was making more money than I ever made in my life.
Right.
I couldn't possibly spend that money that I was making. So I was saving it, and with the idea that I was going to save the money, and I was going to go to New York, and I was going to get a record deal, because it was always my dream to be a recording artist. I grew up listening to jazz records, and I realized the importance of recording and jazz. So this I did this, and I got finally I came back from the Quincy gig, and Roger Bond, the owner of the club, decided it was prudent now to let me headline for a week there. And so I did that, and I made a tape of the performance, which was recording all my tunes. I had developed all these tunes at playing the Smiling Dog, and the band was Kenny Warner was playing piano, and Abe Laboriel was playing bass, and Skip Haddon was playing drums, and that was a really good band. And so we made the tape. All right, so that was 75, and then in 76 I made the move. And the goal was get a recording contract. So, I'm going around, and I got, I got rejection, just like one after another. But then finally, I got the tape to Irv Kratka at Inner City Records. And he said, yeah, okay, let's decide for a three record deal. And I said, okay. So then, there I was there not 6 months, and I had a recording deal. All right, and I mean, once again, this was not instant startup, but it got me going.
Right.
And the recordings were very well received by the critical community, and so that was great that was happening like that. But I went there, and besides getting a recording contract, the reason why I got that is I wanted to go play my stuff.
Right.
I wanted to go play my stuff, and I found that this was not possible in New York, other than a gig at like the Tin Palace, where I could barely pay anybody, and so this was, so I came back here, and it occurred to me that I could play, and I could have a circuit. I could build a circuit in the cities that surrounded Cleveland. If you look at Cleveland, we're like right next to Buffalo and Pittsburgh and Detroit, to the north, Columbus and Cincinnati to the south. Right. You got Toledo over here, Indianapolis not that far, Chicago a little farther. Right. But anyway, I started playing those towns, and that became, my circuit. And until I ran into these health issues, I was doing that. I was playing those clubs up until now.
What is the experience like? And don't get me wrong, there was a breakout for me. It's a tough thing for a kid, even a teenager in your early 20s, to perform in front of people. And then all of a sudden, you being this world-class saxophone player, you get thrown in front of these people. Was there fear? Were you nervous in front of your first 10 audiences? What what's that
I mean,
feeling like?
I have been playing. I have been playing for people since I was 12 years old,
Man.
and the results were always pretty good. I never really felt that. Um, I mean, some of the venues, you know, I played were like awe-inspiring,
Hmm.
but it, uh, it all seemed to work. I played Carnegie Hall. I played a big one for me was I played Severance Hall,
Hmm.
and I was at the Institute for a year, and I used to go and listen to Jordan Zell conduct rehearsals. That's one of the perks of being a student at the Institute. And so Severance Hall was like, that was whoa, that was a big deal to me. And I did wind up playing that uh, when I did the tribute to Stan Getz, and I played Focus with the
Hmm.
chamber orchestra, and one of Stan's rhythm sections, you know, and so being on the stage at Severance Hall, I mean, I felt it. I wasn't scared, but I mean, I felt it.
Hmm.
I don't know if you can, it's like, whoa, this is, boy, this is something.
Yeah, you kind of want to kind of take it all in, but you know you can't because you've got to get on with what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's like, I just want to stand here, take a deep breath, look around, and then I can start. No, you can. You need to start right now. You, the one thing I want to talk about, my history of you is this band called the Fat Tuesday Big Band. How did you assemble that? Because you guys
Okay.
are good.
All right. Well, first of all, I was always always a fan of big bands.
Hmm.
They were inspirational to me. And there was a band in Cleveland back in the early '60s that was put together by Rick Kiefer, who was a great trumpet player who played with Maynard Ferguson's band. And this is a story in itself. But he went in the dead of night. He would copy. He would take the music and he would copy it. So he copied all of Maynard's charts. And he brought when he they took a break for the band, he left them and he came back here. So he had Maynard Ferguson's book, and he put together a band that was really. I mean, I could tell you the personnel. The trumpet section was Ishmael Ali Hickey on trumpet, lead trumpet. Bobby Finley, Chuck's brother, was playing in the section. Gary Barone, just a marvelous, prodigious jazz player. And I think Ray Stone was the other trumpet player. And then the trombones were Jiggs Wiggum, who went on to fame, and Al Javorky, late rest his soul. He moved to Nashville. Mel Wanzo from the Basie Band was on bass trombone. The sax section was Hank Gear, an iconic Cleveland name, on alto. The two tenor players were Dave O'Rourke and Weasel Parker.
Hmm.
And Larry Patrick played. The rhythm section was Chink Stevenson on bass, Bob McKee on drums, and Bud Waddles on piano. And they used to play at a place called Paderewski's on Sunday. And so actually me and Chuck Finley used to make the trek every Sunday up Harvard to Paderewski's and listen to this band. And that was very inspiring, very inspiring. I used to listen to Dave and Weasel doing chase choruses, and that was like, wow, good Lord. So anyway, that I always liked that. And so what happened was I got an opportunity to take over the band at Lakeland Community College. Okay, so I did that, and Lakeland, the band up there was not. They didn't have nearly enough students to put together a band, so it was a bit like a community band. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to expand the community, and so I started adding my boys from around here, and I actually Bob McKee was my first drummer, the first drummer of the band. This was '91, and uh, and so that became the Fat Tuesday Big Band. that became. You know, it started off as the Lakeland Community Jazz Band, but then it became the Fat Tuesday Big Band, which it continues to be. And it's 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 brought a whole new dimension, to what it is that I do. So I still love play small groups and everything, but this is something else that I do that I love deeply. And I've been very fortunate to have great players still playing in the band.
You are just part of the fabric of Cleveland's jazz scene on a lot of different levels, from the Fat Tuesday Big Band, the solo stuff that you've done, all the stuff that you've done. And you've done it for a long time. So here's the tough question, I think. What's left for you to do?
Well, I pray on that all the time. Uh, uh, I'm here to follow the will of God, and if what God has in store for me, I'm there to do that. If He has, obviously, what He has in store for me does not include some of the things that I did before, but obviously I'm still doing stuff. So see, the thing is, I enjoy it. I love doing it. I love playing, and I love playing in the different situations. I love playing in front of the Fat Tuesday band, and I love playing in the small groups. And I guess as long as that happens, I don't think in terms of what is there left for me to do. I think of um, I do play with the purpose of like inspiring people the way I was inspired, and bringing joy and beauty into their life. And as long as I'm able to do that, I'm good. So carry on, and
All
here we
right.
are.
I want to ask you about the enjoyment of this. I'm going to give you front row center seats at Severance Hall. You've played in front of people. I want you to be able to sit back, relax, and who would you want to see on stage? You're not playing, you're just there to enjoy music. This is a concert for Ernie. Who are you putting on stage? And I know you're going to tell me there's going to be 8 bass players and 100. It doesn't matter. Just tell me who you would want to see up on stage performing for you.
I'd like to be there, and I've been at other, not at Severance Hall, but other places. I would like to, the Duke Ellington Band. Uh, Reasons are because obviously Duke was this incredible force of as a band leader and as a composer, and in the band there were so many great distinctive voices that it was it just it was like unlike any other experience. And these guys somehow somehow stayed together for a very long time.
Hmm.
Occasionally, uh, Johnny Hodges would leave for a couple of years and didn't realize it was much better being back there. So but all you had, you had you had Hodges, you had Paul Gonzalez, you had Harry Carney, you had the great trombone players, and I'm forgetting their names. God help me and forgive me. There was like uh, Cat Anderson on trumpet, and many others. So just so many, great drummers. You had Sam Woodyard. I remember, and it, it was a collection of individuals unlike any that existed prior or since. And I would like to sit at a concert and check that out again.
When do you think the last time was where you sat back and enjoyed a concert?
Oh, see, I I listen to there's I mean there's a couple of different bands that Cleveland. They're not you would say they're jazz bands, but I mean I can remember just being down at this place listening to Moco Bovo. and that is a remarkable group, one of the best groups in town. Very, very, very. Indiv- there's an individuality about what they do in terms of the music and the way this presented, and they're all and some really fine musicians doing it. So that they're like they would be cast as a blues band, but they're not really a blues band. They're more
Mhm.
than that. And another band that's a great band like that from this area is the Kidney Brothers, the Numbers Band, and that's another remarkable collection of guys. And so the music that they play is different. It has it's not just it's not just a blues band. It's more than that. And I I actually I was just at the Bop Stop uh, this past a week ago Friday, and my regular bassist Tim Lecken had a quintet there, and that was a really nice band. That was a nice band. It had Tommy Lehman on trumpet and Tom First, both of whom will play the Fat Tuesday Big Band, and uh, good. It was a really nice concert. So I mean, I I enjoy a lot of different things.
Mhm.
I I used to go to when I was in New York. I used to go to Severance Hall, not Severance Hall. I used to go to Carnegie Hall, and to listen to classical performances, and I still do that. And I I like to click on YouTube, which is a great thing,
Mhm.
and listen to Nathan Milstein, listen to Yasha Heifetz, um, listen to Vladimir Horowitz on YouTube. I go into the night, I go to bed rather late because I'm listening to music on YouTube and
Right.
enjoying it immensely.
So, where can people now find your music? Is it just YouTube? Do you have a website? How can we get to you?
On YouTube, there are at least 85 video clips of me, and uh, I stand by all of them. There's some there's some good stuff there. You can catch me on YouTube, which also has a lot of my recordings on there. I have 34 recordings out under my
Hmm.
name, and a lot of them are available on Amazon. You know, right in Amazon, right in me, and they'll give you a list of albums and stuff. And once again, I, I do stand by them.
Good. Excellent. My musical library will increase in the K category for Krivda. Ernie, I greatly appreciate this. You are a wealth of knowledge about the Cleveland area and Cleveland jazz. We're gonna have to do this again because if I have this list of questions here, I've only really asked 3 questions off of my list. So I want to come back at some point later on and see if we can do this again and highlight some of the other things that you've done. Because from what I read, you've also played Quincy Jones, Cannonball Adderley, the OJ's, Temptations, Four Top Supremes, and that's just to name a few. But we'll get
Ah,
into that in the next interview because I I, I think, and I'm not lobbying for
I
you to do
forgot
more
about
work.
Leo's Casino, but go on.
Leo's Casino. I'm not going to lobby for you to do more work because I know where we are, work's got to be something that's fun. You need a book. You really do. I don't know if I don't think you have a book, but you need a book to talk about the history of this stuff. And if you put it
My
out there,
wife keeps telling me that.
I like your wife.
All right.
I will get a hold of her and remind her that you should be doing a book. You should get a book out there. We will do our part to publicize the book. This has been an absolute pleasure. As I say at the end of most of my interviews, I have learned things. I want to do this again so I can learn more. And once again, like I said, I greatly appreciate this time.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to expound,
Not
and
a problem. So this is
and
not a
good
problem.
luck with this project.
Thank you, sir. You've been listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm Darrell Scott. Need to get a hold of me? All you have to do is go to jazzflyte@gmail.com. We shall talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that grew through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.